there is very little information about the gun used to shoot Trump. But I'm here to tell you everything you need to know about it. The make, model, caliber, year, everything. Well, why? Because I used to own one. Now, before I get into it, I do want to take a moment and say it has been challenging on YouTube over the last few years. The way the algorithm is reprogrammed constantly, we're just going down, down, down. And we do everything we can to get ourselves out there and get our messages out there. But yet it's really like going upstream with a canoe and you're paddling hard like you're on a treadmill, but you're only going backwards, and you just keep, and the harder you paddle, it doesn't matter. So I want to take a moment first to thank those of you who are supporters of this channel through Patreon. It's really the only way we're continuing to make it, to be quite honest. Because as many of you know, I retired as a principal a few years ago, kind of leaning on this as my job, and it's only going down, and it's just a downward trajectory, and it keeps going down. But because of those of you who support us through Patreon, we are able to continue to go and not really worry about it. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you feel called to support this channel through Patreon, that link is below. For as little as $1 a month, it changes our ability to just be free to just throw out as the content that we feel called to put out there. That link is below. The evening of the attempted Trump assassination and Trump shooting, I reported out in the middle of the Badlands of South Dakota that it was an AR-style rifle. And a lot of people say, well, how do you know? How do you know? Well, you just kind of listen to the reports. And the reports was they found an AR-style rifle out there. But there's a lot of AR-style rifles. Goodness gracious. In my head, I thought, well, what kind? What caliber? Who made it? What kind of barrel? What kind of trigger? I mean, there are so many variables. The AR rifle is probably not necessarily the most produced gun, but it definitely there's more makers, there's more gun manufacturers that produce an AR style rifle than any other rifle. The sheer volume of different brands is huge. The volume of different calibers is huge. The volume of different modifications you can make is uncountable. Like so what kind? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the exact kind and everything about it. And the reason we're going to do that is because I used to own one, and I could tell you all sorts of things about this rifle. Let's start with the brand. It's a DPMS Panther Arms A15. Now, they reported it as a DPMS AR-15, but the exact model is the A15, built in 2013. Now, that's a big thing because DPMS has changed. You buy a DPMS now, it's not the same as it was in 2013. Because in 2013, the DPMS Panther Arms manufacturing plant was in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And it was acquired under a group called Freedom Outdoors, which later became Remington Outdoors. And then in 2020, they went bankrupt. And the rights to DPMS, along with 4 other gun manufacturers, was picked up by JJE Capital and moved to West Columbia, South Carolina. And all 5 of those gun companies were purchased for $2.15 million. Now, DPMS, so it's a very different company now. In 2013, manufactured in St. Cloud, Minnesota, DPMS was claiming to be the second largest producer of AR rifles around. I don't know if they were or not. I think it was a claim because they were trying to sell themselves, apparently. But in 2013, it was a privately owned manufacturer. Now, what I'll say about it is it's reported that it was chambered in 5.56. Now, it's going to sound like a strange statement to you all that understand the chambering of 5.56, is that it was literally marked chambered in 223 and 5.56. That's very significant because if you know anything about 5.56 and 2.23, if you have a rifle chambered in 5.56, you can shoot 2.23. If you have a rifle chambered in 2.23, you cannot shoot 5.56. So the fact that they marked it 2.23 and 5.56 was really kind of them just, I appreciated that actually, because I'm not a fan of putting different calibers of bullets in a rifle, and I understand you can put a 2.23 and a 5.56, but I like that it was marked there. Now, what I'll say about this rifle, I was not a fan. I did not like it. I didn't find it particularly accurate. It just wasn't accurate. I'm not basing anything on what took place at the Trump shooting. I just didn't find it very accurate. I also did not find, this may sound strange, but I thought it kind of looked silly. The way they had the particular style of handguard that they put on there, as well as the stock. I just didn't like the looks of it, to be quite honest. But I used it as a small game hunting rifle is really all I did with it. I used it a couple times and then I sold it. Just wasn't a fan, to be quite honest. I mean, it shot fine as far as reliability, but it just really wasn't very accurate. Also at the time, I had a Colt AR and it was darn accurate. Big difference. And when you're shooting those two side by side, you got to get rid of the DPMS. So in a weird way, it's a good thing he did use it, because it's not very accurate. I don't know if that was the problem with the gun or his ability to shoot. My guess is a combination of both. But in the end, it's just not a very accurate rifle. Now what they are saying is that it's 5.56 ammo that he did use, and it's full metal jacket. So there you go. There's everything I know about the gun used to shoot Trump. It was a 2013 DPMS Panther Arms A15 chambered in 2.23 and 5.56, made in St. Cloud, Minnesota. It's an interesting rifle. I would say probably one of the more cheaper ones at the time as well. I think that speaks to its accuracy a bit. I can't speak to how they are now. So, I can't tell you what kind of rifle a DPMS. I haven't shot one since then. That was the last one I fired. So since they've moved and new ownership, maybe they're the best rifles. I don't know. But as far as when they were in St. Cloud, Minnesota in 2013, they weren't all that great. And that's what was used, a 2013 DPMS Panther Arms A15 chambered in 2.23 and 5.56. Any thoughts or insight on any of this? Definitely put it below. If you have a DPMS A15 made in St. Cloud, Minnesota, put your comments below. Because I know there's a lot of, my shooting experience with it was my groups at 50 yards were big. Whereas my groups with that Colt at 50 yards were much, much tighter. So any thoughts or insight, definitely put that below. On a strange side note, I took these photos about 7 years ago. I was using daylight as my light, and it just kind of looks angelic almost. I did not mean to do that. But I find that interesting because I said in a previous video, and I'm going to say it again, there is definitely some prophetic things going on here that I'm trying to wrap my head around, and I definitely plan on discussing in the very near future. Do want to take a moment and say most people watch the channel, not subscribers. Click that subscribe button. It greatly increases the algorithm and our ability to get these messages out. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.